proper football for me. I was 19 then. Could play 19 then. Didn't have training or school. I'm organizing my squad, trying to save a tactic here. It says 3-2-2-2-1, but I'll call it the 3-4-3. You know, when you're a professional footballer, you have loads of time spare. You travel a lot, so you're on the coach. You stay away in hotels the night before a game, and you need to be able to fill your spare time. Me and 𝙎𝙺 Cruyff played a lot against each other, and he got me into the Spanish league and all those players, while I was more into the English league, because that's always been my interest. But me and 𝙎𝙺 spent hours and hours on end. You can ask our wives or girlfriends at the time. They weren't happy with us. I always bought myself whenever I had a chance. When I had the money to, and Man United let me go. Not very often.
Players, then, are as obsessed as any other fan. And over in Italy, there was one who wanted to take his involvement to another level. He is Demetrio Albertini, AC Milan and Italian legend.
Nel momento in cui ho comprato il gioco, quindi si vedeva un po' tutte le spiegazioni, che quindi vedevi che c'erano i ricercatori. A quel punto lì abbiamo avuto il contatto con i dirigenti di Football Manager, gli sviluppatori di Football Manager Italia. Quando hanno saputo che ero io, Demetrio Albertini, il calciatore del Milan, ci hanno inserito direttamente, e a quel punto tutte le varie caratteristiche potevano essere più simili alla realtà dette da un giocatore all'interno della propria squadra.
Albertini was involved in the game, and the game became integral to his teams. The Italian national side, multiple World Cup winners, cult heroes, football manager players.
Il Trapp era l'allenatore insieme ai suoi collaboratori. E in più in quegli anni eravamo in tanti, c'era Pirlo che giocava, c'era Massimo Oddo. In quegli anni quasi tutta la squadra giocava a Football Manager, e in quel momento lì abbiamo trasferito un po' tutti anche agli allenatori in seconda quello che poteva essere le caratteristiche degli avversari, proprio perché le caratteristiche sono verosimilmente quasi uguali alla realtà.
The realism of the game was making a tangible impact within football, scouting teams, researching players. But what about influencing signings? Could a computer game really arm a real-life manager with the information he needed to buy a player?
Rangers are a fantastic institution, beautiful stadium. When I took the job over, you don't know what it's all about until you actually experience an old firm game. It was mind-blowing.
If I was starting a new game, I always went for the tried and trusted players that had served me well in the other clubs. I suppose otherwise, take the job that my dad was currently in. So Rangers appoint John McLeish as manager. So that means you've been sacked.
Thank you.
So I was living in Glasgow at the time, and I think it was about 2001-2002 season. And I used to like Barcelona because I always knew the B team and the C teams had great gems that you could pluck, maybe for a bargain or get them on loan. And then this one kid stood out, you know, I was drafting him into the first team already and giving him a few games, and he'd score a couple of goals. And I think he must have been 13 or 14, and his stats for someone that age was just incredible. First thing I did was tell my dad about it.
He told me that this guy is going to be the best player in the world. And I said, yeah, okay, son, you know, pat in the head and let them go on with it, you know.
Back in the early days of the game, there was some players that you felt maybe weren't incredibly realistic to real life in terms of where their careers ended up. But this just felt like there was something different about this kid. You know, why was he in at 13? Surely they couldn't have made this mistake. And yeah, the kid was called Lionel Messi.
For them to actually say, this is the guy who's going to be the best player in the world, then that happens. You know, I made them my chief scouts right away, my two boys.
Fun enough, 2-3 years later, Rangers inquired about signing Messi on loan, and another player that I'd seen from the game that I'd recommended to my dad.
I said to Jan Bouter's phone, 10-cat, and see Barcelona, have we got any kids coming through? We actually asked if Leo Messi was available on loan, and they said no chance. He did say, though, that Iniesta could come on loan. So he told us that Iniesta, this boy, was very lightweight, but nobody could get near him on the pitch. He was playing in the Barcelona B team, and then hit 10-cat phone back on the Monday and says, can't do it. He played in the first team at the weekend, and the coach is going to take him into the first team squad. So it was a near miss, but the kids flagged these up when they were like 14.
I think at the time, you know, being a kid, he laughed and thought, oh, this is just a computer game, but I think I was the one that was right in the end.
Scotland may have missed out on Messi, but it does host a star of a different kind. He is the stuff of legend, part of a select group that excite every player. The unheard-of gems that reside inside each copy of the game as laconic talents, but are nurtured into heroes by each loving click by click of the mouse. Most, like Messi, will become heroes in real life, but some end up having more success in the virtual world.
Mark Kerr, what a player. He just became the pivot upon which the whole of your squad could be based. He was the man who never, ever let you down.
Built my title-winning Juventus team around him. Him and David in the centre midfield. He's travelled, hasn't he?
A genius player in the game. He's still playing these days at Queen of the South.
The best £40,000 you would ever spend, right? It's Scotland's Mark Kerr. He was a diamond in the game, right? Oh, brilliant. You bought him, right? You bought him. He was the Claude Makelele role before Claude Makelele was invented.
I started off just at a local team, just to get involved in that with some friends, and my dad was involved in that. I moved into Glasgow, into Celtic, played there for about 5 years, which was a good experience as a kid growing up. So I was lucky enough to get took on by Falkirk. I managed to get training with the first team pretty early on, and I got into the team just before the end of my first season, really. I just started to play, and I hardly really had made a name for myself in the game of football, like in real terms, and then the football manager was kind of coming into the club. I had done a couple of things around about 2001, a couple of interviews and things on rise of the game and me, how good I'd done in the game, kind of thing.
The funny thing about Mark Kerr was that it wasn't that any of his stats were particularly amazing. He didn't have the best shot in the game, he wasn't the quickest player in the game. It was his work rate and determination, his ability to follow orders.
It was Falkirk, that's when I first started. Falkirk, yeah. It was probably about maybe 3-4 years after I left Falkirk. It was kind of, I think the game got bigger, and then I had kind of stayed as like one of the best players in it.
He used to go sign for Arsenal, for the Real Madrids of this world, for Juventus. He was always the captain of Scotland. You know, I'm sure Mark would have loved that to be reality, but within the game, I know he was a real legend.
The boy Kevin Bridges, I think he does an interview and he says he won the Champions League final with Dortmund, and I scored the goal. It's pretty cool, but it would be better if I had done it in real life, I suppose, to match it.
There's them fellas, isn't there, who they never make it in real life, but in footy manager terms, they're gods, aren't they? Tonton Zola. I've never seen what he looks like. I'm going to Google him right now. Where's my phone? Today, I want to know.
I think my favourite was Tonton Zola Moukoko, who was obviously the legend of the game for a number of years. If you had him in your side, your side was virtually unbeatable.
You could plot this guy, I think it was maybe from Djurgårdens in Sweden, for about £20,000-35,000, and no matter what club you put him at, he would score a hat-trick, 4 goals, 5 goals. Within 2 seasons, he was probably the best player in the game.
I remember back in the day, it was all about Freddie Adu. Everybody, if you had Adu, you were jamming. But now, Adu never really. It's, you know, when you see somebody that never lived up to the football manager potential, Yeah, he kind of disappeared.
No one will ever replace Mike Duff in my affections. He was in one about 12 years ago. He cost £20,000 from Cheltenham Town. You could throw him in the Manchester United team, you could throw him in the Southend United team, he would be the best player. He was the greatest bargain that game has ever seen, and I can't tell you how happy I am to see that even in real life, though he hasn't quite matched that, he is now back in the Premier League with Burnley.
To me, I see those players as mistakes. They're data errors. They're things that should never have happened. I'm not cruel enough to want to take those memories away from the people who love those players. And you know, I've got a big soft spot for 𝙎𝙀𝙀 as well. He did very well for my Watford team for many years. Was the player that you could afford to buy. But then on the other hand, as the game's director, I see them as negatives because they're not true to the simulation that the game is meant to be and is what we want the game to be.
People message me all the time saying, you're far too good, you're an FM god and stuff like that. There's been a book recently. Obviously the players in that were all the players I signed as a kid. With the stuff I'm getting on Twitter, I can half expect myself to be in that book soon with the way that it's going on. And people are obviously sending me references saying I'm getting 26 in 27 and stuff like that. So it's great to see that my players doing well for them. I try and sign myself, but I've been let down, if I'm honest. It happened where it weren't doing well enough for my standards, and I ended up just being there because I was a manager and I didn't like that. You know what I mean? It's easy to have that little click chat you dropped on air and tell myself that I've been dropped.
I always seem to sign myself as the years go on. I've got more expensive, so it's been difficult. I bought myself for PSG. I bought myself for 25 million, I think, and then didn't cut it because obviously I had Rodriguez, Bale and Di Maria, all those sort of players. Didn't cut it, and then I sold myself for 10 million after one season. So I'm ruthless as well, if I need to be.
I don't even know why, but I'd have to dominate the Italian league and win the Champions League maybe 5 or 6 times. And then I'd probably work in the conference. Got one at the moment, Staley Bridge from Conference North, and we're top half. Premiership tied at the minute, 3rd season in the Premier League, and we're just trying to push on from there, but it's making it hard for us because the chairman's not that willing.
When we're on the plane, like we're always on Football Manager. We're always looking over each other's results. We're always celebrating when the other team scores, and so yeah, it's definitely a lot of rivalry. I think that 2 of my teammates are Spurs, and I've obviously gone for PSG because I like just spending money.
I've punched the screen many times when the results are not going right, and obviously it does happen in games where you batter a team all game, they go up the other end and score in the last minute. Yeah, the laptop's got a few right hooks from me and a few straights. It's just one of them things that happens, doesn't it, in football, and obviously it happens in the game because it's probably the best replication of that.
I don't think we ever consciously said we're going to tap into this everyone wants to be a football manager thing. I think it was just that we...
That was the kind of thing we realised afterwards, wasn't it? Yeah, I think we wanted to be. But...
Yeah, exactly. We did it for ourselves to be and our mates, and then it just turned out that we were quite normal.
The game is more than just man management. It is a test of skill, a tactical masterclass.
My management style was 4-1-3-2, attacking with the full-backs pushing up and the right and left midfielders pushing up to support as well.
You know, a lot of the time I find myself trying to retrain an attacking midfielder, you know, as a centre midfielder, because I don't play with anybody in behind the strikers. I'll just play with a false 9.
I'm very attacking, as you know, from my playing style. I don't have too much emphasis on defence. At the moment, I play a 3-5-2. But the 2 wingers are high up the pitch, so it's more like a 3-3-4 and just go out and all-out attack.
I like to start off the 4-4-2, but with one midfielder kind of sat back more defensive, and then one target man striker and a faster striker who can play off a target man.
I generally like to have a very defensive-minded player here, almost a Makelele role, sometimes a centre-back actually in front, and that would give a lot of structure for the rest of the team to bomb on. 4 at the back, 1 defensive midfielder, 2 central midfielders, 2 wingers, 1 striker. Following football is quite a geeky pastime. You know, the amount of knowledge we have about irrelevant players and irrelevant stats and irrelevant goals going back decades. You know, if it was anything else apart from football, if it was train spotting or something, people consider you, a massive geek. So it's perfect that Football Manager appeals to that demographic, I think.
What the game did was give people a certain empathy with what football managers were going through.
It never ceases to amaze me when I see fans talking about players in other countries, and having really good knowledge. So I know where that influence has come from.
Football Managers brought out a whole new vocabulary that I never knew existed. It's like, oh, I know defenders are there and I know midfielders are there, but are we playing an 𝙎𝙬𝙎𝘾? I don't know what one is.
Remember when we signed, Newcastle signed 𝙎𝙬𝙎𝘾 and nobody heard of him? Like, lad, absolutely fantastic register, you'll blow your mind. He's a what?
Like the 𝙎𝙬𝙎𝘾 role.
There's no question that fans now, because of games like Football Manager, they're more familiar with tactics. They seem more approachable, more kind of accessible than they ever used to. You understand the choices of systems. You understand the changes that are being made more. It's all added to our knowledge of the game.
Yeah, I think it's a two-way street. People want more knowledge to help them play Football Manager, to help them sign good young players or use very intelligent tactics. And it happens the other way around. I think the knowledge you get from Football Manager means you're maybe more interested in the tactical side of things. Maybe you know more about foreign leagues. So I think it's cyclical, really.
I think Football Manager has given people an understanding of the intricacies of football that they never would have had before. And I'm sure football commentators must play the game.
I first played Football Manager as what was I, 11, 12, early teens maybe. Probably one of its first incarnations, and I absolutely loved it. Whiled away the hours, well, wasted the hours you might say, instead of doing homework, and I loved that game. I always play as York City, team I support, my local club. It's not just for that reason though. It's because I think you've got to start at the bottom and work your way up. You don't start as Liverpool and start in the Premier League and have everything there on a plate and be able to go out and sign somebody for £30 million. No. You've got to start by building something yourself. The feeling of accomplishment as you go up the leagues, I'm sure, if I was better at it, would be much more fulfilling. I'm sure that's the right way to play it as well. I find the game these days an aid and a hindrance. It's a good research tool in a way, but only once you start the game. You can't get into it too far because then it becomes a hindrance. I remember once getting very confused with 𝙎𝙬𝙎𝘶. It's a few years ago now, and he was a Juventus player, but I was absolutely convinced he was at Real Madrid. It didn't cause me any problems in a commentary because obviously when you start doing the preparation for a commentary, you do it properly, but if I just strolled to that game without doing any preparation, Champions League commentary as well, I would have been surprised to see 𝙎𝙬𝙎𝘶's name on the Juventus team sheet because I would have thought, well, he's at Real Madrid. No, he's not. Only in my kitchen.
Well, the thing is, Jeff, I think it was a good performance from the lads, to be honest. I mean, we went a goal down after 10 minutes. We were defending atrocious, really, first 10, 15 minutes. We could have been 3-0 down, but thankfully the lads all stuck in. They're good at what they do. They've got a great team spirit in the camp, and, once we got the equaliser, I think it was only going to be one winner from there. And, the big lad at the top.
Let's get the training. Let's get the tactics together. This could even see if I had this, then I would be in trouble. I wouldn't get anything done. I'd be like, I wouldn't put the thing down. I'm a big football fan anyway, and I like to watch, even in my spare time, I watch Bundesliga football, I watch La Liga football, as well as the Premiership, and as well as, my team's Celtic, so, they're always they're the games I love to watch the most. But usually I'm Celtic, and I was managing Celtic at the time, and I got to go in, and they were kind enough on one of the occasions to invite me in, and I got to go into the dressing room, I got to meet the team, hang out. And there was one guy I never warmed to at all, and I couldn't figure out why. And it was, it turns out like I think he'd missed like training 3 weeks in a row in the game, and to the point where I had to go to the 2 weeks wage fine. And I was holding it against this poor guy in real life that his imaginary counterpart was lazy. No.
On May the 28th, 2002, we already knew that we'd lost the fight to stop Wimbledon FC relocating to Milton Keynes.
At the time, there were lots of rumours about clubs being bought and moved. There were a couple of clubs that were looking to move to Dublin, and we just thought that the whole thing was completely wrong. You can't buy a club 20, 30, 40 miles away.
I was doing lots of TV and radio interviews because we announced on that day that we would start again. A lot of people in football were sceptical that fans could actually run a football club, and I think that I spoke quite passionately that day about how we could do this, how we would do this, and we were going to make it happen, even though we didn't have a ground, we didn't have a kit, we didn't have an official name, but we were going to make this happen.
So we heard Ivor Heller, the commercial director, talking on 5 Live when the decision had been made, and I gave him a call.
He said that he'd enjoyed listening to the interview and that he was inspired by what we were going to do. I said, good, let's get together and see what we can do, because it just had the right feel.
The first call to Ivor was literally to find out how much money they needed to set up the club, and we signed a deal a couple of days later.
The money in the early days was critical to us. There is no doubt about that, because we needed and have needed every penny that we've ever been able to raise.
The funniest thing when we first started working with them is they didn't actually have a kit, so for their first match they wore our Office 5-a-side kit.
We have always wanted to be part of the football community, and I don't think there is a better way to be part of the community than to be associated with Football Manager.
Football management is a totally strange and unique job, and I think unless you're sitting in the hot seat, you can't imagine what it's like. It's a pre-season friendly at the end of the day, so whatever happens, I'm not going to beat myself up or get down about it if they are too strong for us, which might be inevitable. I always wanted to play against the best, and I've got a study at home with photos of me playing against the best, and today I get to be in the opposite dugout against probably the best or one of the top 3 coaches in the world, which is fantastic.
We came from nothing, and then 9 years later we made it into the Football League. We're on the verge of a new ground back at Plough Lane.
Just prove that if you've got a good enough community and if the fans have the spirit, then you can come from nowhere and end up back playing in the Football League. It's proper Roy the Rover stuff.
The Wimbledon story resonates amongst football fans worldwide. This is real football. But the simulation has gone on to have a more widespread effect on the game. The database, so informative to its fans, now has a real-world impact, thanks to a deal with Prozone.
Now, anecdotally, we've heard over the years, of course, that football managers dip into Football Manager, the game's database, to kind of scout players. But this has kind of been legitimised now. It's all official.
The Prozone deal with Sports Interactive basically means that all of the knowledge that Sports Interactive have acquired over the last 20 years of producing Football Manager is available to clubs.
They'd been talking to us for a while about their systems and about Recruiter and about what they were trying to do with the product, and then turned around and said that they needed our help, which was just bonkers.
The data provided has become part of Recruiter, a software package that clubs like Huddersfield Town can use to help scout players.
This is Huddersfield Town's 3rd season in the Championship. We have a good budget, but there's some clubs with significantly more money than us to spend, so we have to be intelligent in the marketplace.
We're one of the only teams in this league probably that's not been in the Premier League at some stage, so we've never had the parachute payments or the TV revenue. So when you've got teams who are able to spend £8 million, £11 million on strikers, our record transfer is just over £1 million. So, it does show what you're up against.
Recruiter is the programme developed by Prozone, which includes Sports Interactive's Football Manager data. And it enables clubs basically to do their due diligence on players. It's not the case that clubs will be signing players from Football Manager. They won't be opening up a game, seeing who's good in 2017 and thinking, right, we'll buy him. You can do everything you would need to do to scout a player, apart from the one crucial thing, and it will always be crucial, which is actually go and watch the player.
Prozone's Recruiter had 80,000 players in it, and the link with Sports Interactive has widened the net to include 250,000 players. We provide all the biographical data before
a club steps over or a team steps over the white line, whereas Prozone provide all the analysis afterwards.
It just seemed such a simple partnership to come together, because they have such a vast experience of player database, and it just goes hand in hand with what we want to do in the professional space.
We have over 1,300 scouts worldwide. We're in a great position to provide that data, and clubs are looking further and further afield to try and find talent that's within their price range.
The analyst lads have flagged up a player in France. Yeah. So immediately I connect him with that player's agent, find out what's his value likely to be, what's his contract, what's his wages, is it worth our while following that player? If the answer to all that's yes, then we'll then send one of our guys from here, one of our senior guys, to France to watch that player.
The best thing for me and for the club is the fact we can really make it bespoke to us. So we input the indexes behind the data, all of which can be weighted, which gives us a real ability to fine-tune exactly what we're looking for. So we can see a set of players and names that nobody else is seeing.
The analytical staff can compare those player statistics and information, video footage and everything like that, and it can help the manager make a more informed decision as to which of the players we decide to recruit to Huddersfield Town.
We now do a search and we sit there and say, right, that's the exact sort of centre midfielder we want, and that's something that we take a lot of pride in.
It's not changed the way that we use the scouts, it's changed the way we make our decisions and the risks we can afford to eliminate. Scouting will always have a role in football, but the recruitment tool really supports everything that we try and do.
From our perspective, we've always been extremely proud of the database and the realism it reflects. So to have real football managers now using our data to bring in their big new signings, it's fantastic from our perspective.
I work on the Stephen Pienaar scale, I guess. If Stephen Pienaar is our most high-profile player that overseas guys will recognise, I'll work from then. I've seen Pienaar since he was at this School of Excellence, which was before he joined Ajax Cape Town, which is before he joined Ajax. So I can relate things to how he was. The easiest for me is always comparing to the player who's playing directly with them. As long as I get it right at the beginning, it should be pretty accurate. We're at the Athlone Stadium in Athlone in Cape Town. Tonight is a PSL match between Ajax Cape Town and Bidvest Wits. I'm keeping an eye on a couple of teenagers in the Ajax team. The Wits team is very well scouted. I think 3/4 of the team's 30 plus. So they've been in Football Manager for a decade or so. One or two of the Ajax kids, we obviously still monitoring them. There's Rivaldo Kutsia. Even the captain of Ajax Cape Town is young, 21, 22 years old. It's pretty much a team of development players that's come through the Ajax system. Rivaldo Kutsia, the number 3, he's been doing his job pretty well so far. He's been marking number 11, Chris Katongo. He's a dangerous striker, and Rivaldo's been marking him out of the game. At 17, it's obviously hard to judge where he's going to go from here. But the truth is that there's a good chance he won't be in the PSL for more than 2 years. Ajax Cape Town are connected to Ajax Amsterdam, and they have already had a look at him. But of course, until he turns 18, he can't leave the country.
Wesley Ngo Beheng Beheng. He scores goals again and again. He scored 149 of them. Ngo Beheng Beheng. He's beautiful. I'm a worrying man. I took over the reins at Gateshead on Football Manager 2010. In dire need of a striker, I consulted my parent club at Newcastle, who had a man called Wesley Ngo Beheng in their reserves. I took him on loan for the season and he finished as top scorer. His contract ran out, so I tempted him back over the river on a full-time contract, and he stayed there for the next 10 years as we made our ascent up to the Premier League, and he scored in every single division along the way, which made him a bit of a cult hero at the club. When I say at the club, I just mean for me. I decided to buy a Gateshead shirt and then get his name and number printed on the back. So I had to contact the club secretary and arrange for them to send it off to their official club printers to add the name and number of a man that had never appeared for their club onto the back of the shirt. About 6 months after I last played that save, I got a bunch of notifications through on Twitter So I checked them, and it turns out that Gateshead had genuinely taken Wesley 𝙎𝙆𝙀 on trial, but they didn't sign him, and the story ends there, sadly for him. I did have a Wikipedia page that I'd edited for Wesley 𝙎𝙆𝙀 to detail all his exploits while he was at Gateshead. They left it there for a good month or so, maybe 2 months, before they noticed that it featured apparently fictional information based in the future, which goes against their terms and conditions for articles.
What is reality? Is it using a computer game to help win your real-life match? Is it a top-flight manager who listens to his teenage son's advice? Or is it taking your virtual team success so seriously that you have to dress up for the occasion? In a way, all of these are real.
The football fan that our game caters to is the football fan who wants to be the manager. They're the person that, rather than going into the pub after the game and getting drunk and complaining about it, is actually sitting there going, well, if I was the manager, I would have brought an anchor man in the transfer window, and here's a list of 20 Chileans that we can be looking at.
That's the kind of common theme with football fans, isn't it? And I suppose our game gives these people the chance to try out their ideas and see if it's true.
I chatted to this guy and I said, how long have you played this game for? And he gave me the best answer to this question I've ever heard. He just looked me straight in the eye and went, I'm 5 years clean, mate. And I was like, that's wonderful, that's brilliant.
There's nothing quite like vanishing for 3 to 4 hours in this abstract universe, armed only with a notepad, a biro, a bag of mint imperials and a pot of tea.
It drives me mad that people do to kind of write it off as, oh, it's just a database. You know, it's just like looking at the novel Anna Karenina and just saying, oh, it's just a collection of words on a page.
It has honestly made me stop and think many, many times. No, I've got that wrong. Is that a game? Is that real? And that's just too many hours playing it.
You could stick me on a desert island, fed me with my missus and Football Manager. I'd be all right. Need electricity, obviously.
It's a nice wee escape, you know. I think it's... That's a reason so many people love it, right?
It is made by football fans for football fans. It sounds cheesy, but we do make the game for ourselves.
I like it better than some people, I know. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got friends who, like, someone said, like, you can lose this friend, they'll, like, emigrate to New Zealand, or you can never play on Football Manager again. I'd send my friend to New Zealand.
I like anything with competition. I just love winning. Just having the control of a team and kind of guiding them, hopefully, to success, even though it's only a game. And hopefully prepare myself for one day when I do retire and I, fingers crossed, do it for real.
I know it's a game. I know it's a game, but you can't help but feel a little bit proud when it's a Champions League night in Blythe.